Hi everyone, welcome again to another sensational episode of the Curiosity Podcast. My name is Kolako, your host, and this episode features Abiodun Lawal, Head of Ecosystem and Ventures at FCMB. So I'll just give a prior background about Abiodun. So prior to joining FCMB, Abiodun has worked as team lead, digital and innovation at Union Bank. He has also been the innovation manager at Seedstars and business development manager at LoftyInc. Abiodun, thank you very much for joining us today on Curiosity Podcast. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, Kalako. It's a privilege to also be invited here to speak. And thank you for the warm welcome.
Absolutely. So, how are you today? How is it going today?
I'm doing good, doing very well. How are you?
Nice. Yeah, I'm good too. And congratulations on your new role. I think I have to start with that. As being the
Thank
new
you.
head of tech ecosystem at FCMB, congratulations on that.
Many thanks. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah, so let's get into it, Bjorn. As you know, we would like to just, if you can share with us a brief about, growing up and your educational background.
All right. So growing up, I may review a few things that I don't think I've ever said publicly. So I was born in Makoko, essentially. The same Makoko that everybody is going to now to try to rescue. I was born in Makoko, lived in Makoko for a while. Um, my parents were not very educated, so I was born into a fairly low income family. Um, you know, my mom was a trader, and my dad was running taxi services for a while. Um, but thankfully, all of that is past now. So, in terms of my education, I had my first degree in computer science from the Republic of Benin. Then I have a master's degree from University of Lagos. I'm also a candidate for another master's degree at University of East Anglia in the UK, which I'll start on soon. Other than that, I've done quite a lot of certificate courses across entrepreneurship, innovation management in the University of Leeds. Um, I've also been on exchange programs facilitated by the British Council to the UK to learn more about tech ops and what we can do to foster entrepreneurship in Nigeria. So that's a little bit about my background.
Thank you for sharing that, Bjorn. So I've been gone through, like, studying in Benin. So you left Nigeria to study, you came back, and now you're in the innovation space. So how did that connect? To hear that story.
So my career journey has actually not been my plan. Um, a good part of it has actually been by providence. So when I had my first degree in computer science, naturally my first set of skills were computer related skills. So I started learning how to code. And then I built a couple of websites in my lifetime. However, I quickly left coding because I didn't like, I felt like I wasn't on the creative side. I felt like all the
Mm,
creative work would be done and I would only just translate what has been done into, end products, which I didn't like. I wanted to be on the creative side, I wanted to be on the strategy side, I wanted to be on the decision making side as well. And I wanted to be because I felt like I had the skills for negotiation, for creativity, for innovation, beyond just translating, you know, um, ideas into or existing UI into websites, as it were. So, so I decided that it was time to, move into a more strategic field. And so I left coding. So while I was coding, I started my own business. I was getting a few contracts here and there. I was doing work for myself, freelancing for the most part, and getting people to join me on projects that I got. Um, then I met someone who pretty much set me on the path of innovation management. So my story would never be complete if I don't mention it. So his name is Wale Odetayo. He is a co-founder at Innovation Hub, one of
Okay.
the earliest tech hubs in Nigeria. So when I met Wale pretty much handed me my first job. And this was after I had finished General Electric garage training in Nigeria on additive manufacturing. Because while I was freelancing, I had some time to myself. So I was applying to any program that helped me to build more competence. So I had applied to the GE Garage program. And I had just come out of GE Garage when I met Wale at the time. So Wale pretty much handed me my first job on the platter of gold, saying, come and join us and let's come and lead incubation. Essentially, come and and old startups through our program, right? So my first job was essentially an incubation officer, and I was learning how to train startups. I had to learn that through certain materials that the hub had at the time, certain books, certain slides, and as much as as I trained more startups, I also it became part of me essentially. So as I speak now, I could run you through the entire curriculum of what incubating a startup should be like, from the vision setting all the way to getting their MVP out, getting their first set of customers, the step by step decisions that must be taken, up to that point where they're getting their first few customers. So it became, but I was living by it every other day. So having tasted, incubation and venture building, I liked it a lot and decided I was going to stick with it. So after a while of supporting startups, I had some success stories as far back as 2017, 2018, through some partnerships that we were able to enact at the time. So we had some startups that were able to raise funds, and also become employers. So I saw the impact that what I was doing was having on the society. So I liked it and thought to myself that I was going to just keep it on like that. Um, so from there, I mean, it's just been upward in terms of how I've been supporting ventures. It's been upwards from there. I had a short stint leading at LoftyInc, which, by the way, is the parent company for Innovation Hub.
Okay.
Then moved on to Seedstars to support ventures as an investment, or essentially support investment ready ventures. Then I thought to myself that, well, I've been on the consultancy side for a while, because corporates will typically reach out to us to say, hey, we'd like to invest in ventures. Can you help us source for them? Would like to, innovate internally. Can you advise us on how to do it, etc. So in 2020, I started looking to join the corporate world, essentially to help innovate from inside out. And that was how I got into banking. And well, right now I'm on my second banking job, where um, I now oversee a couple more activities than just venture building, but even things like integration of startups into the bank through our APIs and bots, etc. Now follow, as part of what I deliver for the bank.
That's really interesting. And that takes me to, because you mentioned now that you've been part of like two banks driving innovation. So currently now, can you tell us about your role at FCMB as the uh, tech ecosystem and ventures lead?
All right. So at FCMB, I essentially interface with the startup community on behalf of the bank. Um, the bank is one of the most digitally inclined bank in the country. Um, right from right from way back, the bank's structure has been a old core. So the bank had seen that we needed to go beyond just banking startups, but becoming their partners. So FCMB is one of the few banks that I know that is looking to be that is looking to be highly technology led while offering financial services. So we're not just a bank, but we're looking to become a technology firm or technology based company that then offers financial services on the back of those technology. And so we have a lot of investment as a bank into tech. Um, Currently, from where I sit, I help to spread that message into the startup community. We have different programs that we also do year in, year out that helps us to source for interesting ventures that we could invest in, or some of our principals would take personal interest in businesses that we could also just grant access to market, businesses we could connect to, we could make introductions to. I mean, so we have some corporate clients that are looking for certain kinds of startups, and we're happy to make those connections happen. So a lot in terms of how we are driving, you know, um, the narrative as to how banks are working with startups in Nigeria. So FCMB is sitting right in the midst of that. The plan is to become even more, um, even more robust in our offering to startups beyond just investments, that we're doing right now. We're looking to even inspire next generation of entrepreneurs. So again, like I said, we have a lot of programs cut across for all of these. Also, conversations around investment and managing the portfolio of startups that the group has invested in. That is also on my plate. So that's what I do.
All right, that's interesting, and that sounds like a lot. All right. So, you mentioned like supporting, I mean, running different kind of programs for startups. So right now, are there any like opportunities that the bank is opening up for startups specifically that you like to talk about?
Oh, yeah, there are a lot of them actually. That's a session where someone from Catapult VC came to speak to our ecosystem, our audience essentially. And we have also had, and so this month in particular, so just to speak as to, to speak to what you said directly, this month we're having a first of its kind program called Launch by FCMB. And the idea of Launch by FCMB is we want to give startups that are entering the market or relaunching their products into the market, a good ground for them to meet with members of the tech ecosystem, and also a handful of professional testers to get valuable feedback on their product, while also, being considered, or for possible investment by the FCMB group. So essentially, the way it is going to work is we have profiled three startups that will feature in this month's episode of Launch by FCMB. They will be given an opportunity to pitch their product very quickly to an audience of folks within the tech ecosystem community and within the FCMB institution, and also within people who are professional software testers. So when you pitch your product to them, you will also give them a link for them to download your app very quickly and then give you on the spot feedback about your app. So that's one thing that we're doing this month. And of course, some of these startups would be provisioned or profiled, um, essentially for possible investment um, by the FCMB group, right? Other than that, some of these startups also have the opportunity to discuss their pain points with us in case they have any infrastructure needs or even licensing, and as a bank see how we can work with them. But we just want to invite more startups to apply to launch by FCMB. It's going to be a consistent event, and that program would essentially open them up to you know to the world of FCMB essentially. So if you are launching your project or your product within the next few, within the year, there's a link that I can share with you later, Colapom, for
Okay.
entrepreneurs to just sign up to launch with us essentially. We can assure you that you will get at least your first 20, 30 customers from that meeting. If your product is interested enough, people who download it, should be onboarded as your customers directly. So we provide the audience that day, we provide the platform for you, we provide, insights as a bank to you. And if you have any needs or any ask, of the bank, it's also a very good platform to discuss with us, and we can potentially partner with you to take your business forward.
So I'll post the link as part of the description for this episode. So if you're listening,
Thank you.
you can explore it and check it out. So let's move on, Biodo. I know as part
Yeah.
of your role, you're like an investment readiness specialist at Seedstars. And so I would just
Yeah.
like to know, what did you think was like the key learning for startups that participated in the program? Because this was like an investment readiness program for businesses that were ready to raise investment. So what was the key lesson, for those businesses? And what do you think other businesses that are at the stage of fundraising, can learn or integrate into their fundraising approach?
Okay, so that's a really brilliant question. So when I was an investment readiness manager at Seedstars, it's important to note that Seedstars also invests. So we're not just an accelerator or a hub, we're also investors. And so we had investors who had designed certain checklists that we thought was very important for startups to meet if they would be, investment ready. And so there are multiple lessons that different startups could gain when we took them through the program. Because for some startups, it's as simple as not having a data room that becomes the deal breaker in their investment journey. So, what's a data room? A data room essentially is that storehouse where you put all your documents and you make them well arranged. All the agreements you're signing, the founders agreement, every single thing, the registration document, as little as not having a data room could have been a deal breaker at the time, for some of these startups. While others learned, multiple different other, things. Some of them had deficits in their bookkeeping, some had issues with tracking their certain metrics, that was important to the investors. For example, some people were not tracking what their runway was. They didn't know how long they had to fly before they were out of money. They didn't know how long the money that they were about to raise would help them to also run. So again, what I would just say as the most important thing is fundraising is very calculative because you are collecting people's money. So there's a lot of calculation that goes into it. So to think that you have a good idea and then you're just going to fundraise is to not be in tune with reality. So people are going to trust you with their money, but it's also going to be based off the fact that they have done their maths with you and that you have successfully proven to them that you can convert the money into value. And one of the ways to show them that you can convert money into value is to show them historicals. And this is what I have done with certain amount of money. Even if it is your personal fund that has gone into the business, you should be able to show how you're tracking impact, how you're tracking conversion rates, how you're tracking, you know, even very basic things like your things like that. So all those metrics that you put in your box before you approach an investor. Otherwise, they may see that you have a good idea, but you're just not structured properly. So structure goes a long way. Structure goes a long way. In fact, structure is almost everything. Especially when you're not looking at angel investors. Angel investors could still give you some money without so much structure because they're experienced no access to. But whenever you start talking about raise angel investment and proceed, without money, it's a completely different ball game entirely. So structure matters
A
a
lot of
lot. Metrics matters a lot.
a lot of interesting facts there, right there. I mean, it's important. I think the data room is just very key. Up. help you even think through all the things you have to put together. I mean, all the necessary documents that you need, I mean, to even start conversations with investor. I think that's really key and very important. So, what do you think? What are your thoughts about? I mean, you've been in the innovation ecosystem in Nigeria for some years now. So, what are your thoughts about the growth? What is happening? The opportunities? What do you think the ecosystem can do generally to improve?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. So yeah, yes, I've been around the ecosystem for a while. Um, I was I have seen it pretty much transform from what it used to be to something that I don't think any one person can take the glory for at this point. Things are so democratized. Some of the hubs that used to, be the middleman, trying to get this gospel out there, almost not even as relevant anymore because their work has been done. It's not like they didn't. It's not like they went out of business because they were not good. It's just that their work has been done. So essentially, the point is the tech ecosystem has really grown beyond the grasp of a few people that were trying to just promote. Now, people that we try to support have also gone to create multiple platforms now, and they are now supporting more people, right? So I like the growth. However, with growth comes certain level of lack of control that naturally happens, and so that lack of control means that within the tech ecosystem, we need to embrace a level of regulation. We need to embrace a level of discipline. You know, over the years, I've seen that as we grow, people are doing things in silo. People are doing things, without one particular playbook, which makes sense because that's what innovation is supposed to be. They're not supposed to all, do the same thing. However, what can disrupt or scatter ecosystems that are built like this is when certain disciplines are not enforced. And I remember that there was a period where conversations about, what is tech money? Is tech money really money from abroad, or is tech money being
Mhm.
used to for other things like money laundering and all those things? So, and then a lot of people spoke against it. They were not going to allow that in the ecosystem, and that's exactly, the kind of things that I'm also looking forward to within the next few years, because a lot of money has now come into the tech ecosystem, which means that a lot of trust has been put in founders in these startups. So a lot of trust has been put in many startups, and so the next phase for me would be that people of integrity are able to convert this money into value for their stakeholders, and that's the only way that we can stabilize, the tech ecosystem. I think we've done a good job of attracting funding in terms of turning these funds. Startups that have done fantastically well. We have our champions that have not only turned investment into value, gone ahead to close 70 transactions, for example, Paystack. All right. So it's really great what they've done. And I hope that we get more institutions that are very disciplined, get more institutions that are trustworthy for the coming generation without the do. So that's my thoughts on the tech ecosystem. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think that's a great one. Raising investment is a lot of responsibility, and it's not
Yeah.
just about you, it's not just about your business, it's about the precedent you're setting for other founders. And I think that's just really important for people to just really take responsibility because history will always take record
Yeah.
of your actions. Amazing. Yeah, and while we're talking about the growth, you also mentioned like policy, and I think there is a conversation right now about the Nigerian startup bill. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, the first thing I'll say about the Nigerian startup bill is that drivers of this bill have done fantastically well. I've been in a room to give my own input into into the formulation of the bill at the time it was still being put together. I remember some of the very, very rich conversations, extremely rich conversations, where we're really drilling into disparities that needed to be cleared, or needed to be clear in where we're putting the policy together. Right. So, generally, so I contributed my quota to it, and so I'm glad to see how far the bill has gone within the ecosystem, also within the political structure, rather. My thoughts again is just like I said the last time, we need to encourage more of these things. Building an ecosystem or building an industry is is typically a process of attracting investment, then retaining or sustaining investment, and then becoming such an industry that can now potentially, even give out or self-sustain, like within the industry, the investment can also begin to come out from the successes of of that particular industry. So and I believe that the Nigerian startup deal is positioned to get us to that point exactly where through some of the content and some of the policies that have been put forward, if the government will partner with us, then we should we should be looking at a Nigerian startup ecosystem that is stable, a Nigerian startup ecosystem that is not going to be hit with unnecessary and unreasonable levies, a startup ecosystem that would not be on the wrong side of policy making because you have a seat at the table. All right, so my comments really are very generic. I don't know how much you want me to go into like the content of the bill, but I believe that's publicly available. But my thoughts really would be that we need to promote more of these things. I personally encourage and I like the people who put it together. I think they did a fantastic job. And in all fairness, they did a lot of consultation with multiple stakeholders, just to get their input, our input, into the bill. But I'm just looking forward to the final. I think it's now with the Senate. I think the president has. I'm not very sure, but I know it's either in between the presidency or the Senate. But I know that one of those two had already signed it, and I really look forward to the implementation. There are some parts of the bill that give um, NITDA some power, and I also hope that the people that we are appointing as regulators or overseers, for this or to this ecosystem or to this our body ecosystem would understand the actual needs of the people and not see it as a money spinning venture because it's far from that. There's a lot of work to be done. So I'm really enthusiastic about it. I look forward to the implementation.
All right. Yeah. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So yeah. So as we round up, is there any other thing you'd like to share?
Well, so I'll just speak on one of the recent trends within the startup ecosystem, and that is the trend of uh, what's happening with YC saying fundraising is going to slow down and with global markets crashing and all of that and all of that. I think it's just a wake up call to leaders, business leaders, founders, excuse me, to be responsible with innovation, to be responsible with funds, to be responsible with trust, right? I know that there is a lot of there has been a lot of layoffs as of course as a result of that trend. However, um, some companies will still retain their manpower and maybe cut down on some other spending. So we need to also realize that we have people whose livelihoods are depending on us as leaders and as founders. So we should not be quick to say, oh, there is layoff and then we just continue people off. Rather, you should look to being more financially responsible to see how you can cut down on your spendings if possible and ensure that at the end of the day, people matter. People should matter in your equation. And don't use the general economic fear to just how do I say it now? To just lay off people really. let it be the last resort. That you have to come to. But rather, be more responsible towards spending, be more responsible towards, how you handle the trust that has been placed in your hand. I think that will be my final word for now. Thank you.
All right, Abiodun, thank you very much for sharing those thoughts and insights. It's been amazing having this conversation with you. Thank you for joining us on the Curiosity podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Very much fun.
All right. Thank you everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time. Bye bye.